Assalamu alaikum. Today we're going to be talking about the Seljuks, the Conquest and Expansion by Mohammad Saad Sheikh, Muhammad Ahmed Sharif, and Tarek Domlog. Table of contents. First, we'll be talking about a brief introduction of the Seljuks. Second, the conquest of Central Asia. And third, the conquest of Anatolia. And fourth, the conquest of Arabia. For the introduction, they were a Central Asian empire that to some degree had ruled Palestine and the eastern coast of Mediterranean to Kashgar in western China. The empire was founded in Nishapur, Iran, around 1038 CE. The Seljuk Empire was made up of an astoundingly diverse range of religious linguistics and ethnic groups, including Muslims, but also Christians, Jews, and Zoroastrians. The Seljuks intermarried with Persians and adopted many aspects of the Persian language and the culture. By 1055, they controlled all of Persia and Iraq as far as Baghdad. Conquest of Central Asia. Central Asia. Their power was based on the domination of urban centuries, and they fought the Karakanids over the remnants of the Samanid state. Kharawazin was itself annexed by the Ghaznavids in 408 to 1017, putting an end of the Ma'mun dynasty of Kharazm Shahs. The Ghaznavid governors, however, provided as anxious as their Ma'muni predecessors to take advantage of Khawarizm location near major nomadic migration routes and its remoteness from the rest of Islamic Central Asia to assert a privileged position of autonomy. These political changes had a number of causes, such as the weakening of Samanid economy with the exhaustion of its silver mines. In addition, the borders of Islamic Central Asia were becoming home to an ever-increasing number of desperate Turks, pushed out of their traditional pasture land and politically leaderless owing to the collapse of nomadic confederation and the emergence of new ones. Accounts by contemporaries agree in describing the Seljuks such as an uncouth rabble, but existing Arab and Iranian dynasty crumbled before the advance of the Turkish nomads, who, after establishing themselves in Iran and Central Asia, 1055 seized in Baghdad. Lessons derived. Lessons from the rise of Seljuks. Adaptability. The Samanids faced a decline because they couldn't keep up with the economic shifts like the reduction of silver mines and the surge of nomadic groups. But here comes the exciting part, the Seljuks. They demonstrated a remarkable agility and resourcefulness, taking advantage of the Samanids' vulnerabilities and skillfully stepping into their place. What an inspiring story of resilience and opportunity. Contemporary significance, embracing globalization and technological advancements. Nations and industries that resist innovation and adaptation face the risk of being surpassed by more adaptable rivals. Enduring through transformation, flexibility, creativity, and willingness to embrace changes are essential for thriving in a world that is ever-changing. Compare and contrast. Political expansion and centralization. Rashidun and Umayyads. The Rashidun swiftly extended the reach of Islam, consolidating Arabia and conquering regions of Persia, North Africa, and parts of Byzantine Empire. The Umayyads built upon this success, creating a centralized administration based in Damascus that managed a diverse empire. However, they encountered internal strife from marginalized non-Arab Muslims known as Mawali. Ghaznavids/Seljuks. Taking advantage of the weakened Samanid state, the Ghaznavids seized control of Afghanistan, Iran, and Central Asia. Meanwhile, the Seljuks expanded into Iran and Levant, although they struggled to maintain centralized authority as local leaders gained more power. Contrast. While the Rashidun and Umayyads achieved centralization through religious unity, the Ghaznavids and Seljuks faced greater challenges of religionism and decentralization, particularly as authority of the caliphate began to dwindle. Now, Sheriff will be talking about the conquest of Anatolia.
Today, I will be talking about the conquest of Anatolia by the Seljuk Turks. So the historical events of the conquest of Anatolia. So the events leading up to the Battle of Manzikert. What were they? So, in the Battle of Manzikert in 1071, it marked a significant turning point for the Byzantine Empire and the Seljuk Turks. This battle, alongside the key events leading up to it, revealed how Romanos Diogenes, the Byzantine Empire, failed to unite his forces and effectively respond to external threats, which led to the fall of critical Byzantine territories. On the other hand, Alp Arslan, the Seljuk Sultan, showcased how decisive leadership could shift the power of balance in the region. So by 1069, Romanos Diogenes faced mounting challenges in defending the Byzantine Empire's eastern borders. The Seljuk Turks had steadily been advancing, raiding key territories like Ikonion. Romanos attempted to counter these territories, however, they were massive fails, and internal strife within the Byzantine Empire started to compound by poor communication and strategic errors. Romanos faced resistance within his own empire by prominent and important commanders such as Manuel, which left internal divisions in the Byzantine Empire and made sure that the Seljuks were an external threat. So the Battle of Manzikert. In summer of 1071, Romanos' fourth Diogenes decided to take the offensive, marching his army towards Manzikert in an attempt to curb the Seljuk advances. Alp Arslan, upon learning of Romanos' movements, he ensured that his army would intercept the Byzantines. Romanos, not knowing how smart the Seljuks were, basically he left his flanks vulnerable by splitting his forces. This meant that the Seljuk forces surrounded the entire army, which led the catastrophic defeat of the Byzantines. Romanos himself was captured and taken prisoner by Alp Arslan. The defeat of Manzikert had immediate and long-lasting consequences for the Byzantine Empire. The political instability caused by Romanos' defeat led to his eventual overthrow in Constantinople. Meanwhile, Alp Arslan's victory solidified the Seljuks' presence in Anatolia, setting the stage for further expansion. So, what was the long-term impact and the Seljuk dominance? The Crusaders' arrival in the region in 1096 briefly interrupted Seljuk power, but the Seljuks regrouped and maintained their hold in Anatolia. The battle in 1176, over a century after Manzikert, marked the final blow to the Byzantines' hopes of regaining control in Anatolia. It's a map of Manzikert. And what is the meaningful lesson that we can derive from this? So, the lesson we can learn is that internal political and social turmoil weakens countries, making them vulnerable to the many external threats that it faces. An example is Syria's instability, which led to foreign interventions made by even Muslim countries such as Turkey, which prompted many other nations to invade and take advantage over them. We need to have strong leadership in our nations, and internal unity are crucial for national security because without them, countries risk losing independence and control. So compare and contrast. Leadership of Umar ibn al-Khattab and Alp Arslan were the two great generals who left historic marks in their times of victory. The second Khalifa of the Rashidun Caliphate, Umar radiallahu anh, achieved the conquest of the Sassanid Empire, bringing the empire to its knees after the many battles and losses it suffered due to the Muslims. His leadership was based on justice and discipline, which created an orderly and loyal army. So it happened that the Rashidun Empire swept much of the Middle East and North Africa. Despite being outnumbered, Sultan Alp Arslan, due to his strategic leadership skills and more hands-on with a powerful emphasis on personal loyalty among his soldiers, allowed the Seljuks to win the Battle of Manzikert. Alp Arslan's approach was flexible, being directed towards giving personal contact with his army, which created a determinative urge among his soldiers to fight. Both leaders, Umar radiallahu anh and Sultan Alp Arslan, were able to consolidate their forces with much success. But the style of Umar radiallahu anh was more structured in the sense he used more military organization and justice, while Alp Arslan focused on personal relationships with his people and inspired them individually. Although these two approaches were different, the results both leaders managed to have has become historic. Their legacy and uphold of justice will always be remembered due to their conquest and how they treated the Muslims and non-Muslims during their time of rule. This is my presentation, and next you will be learning about the conquest of Arabia by Tarek Domlog.
Next, I'll talk about the Seljuk conquest of Arabia. I'll start off with the history of the conquest. The Seljuks were a Turkic tribe from Central Asia who rose to importance in the 10th century. After converting to Sunni Islam, they began migrating into the Islamic world. By the 11th century, their military skills helped them secure key territories such as Persia and Iraq, becoming one of the leading powers in the Islamic world. Their alliance with the Abbasid Caliphate, which was based in Baghdad, was crucial for their credibility, especially in the Arabian region. This allowed them to solidify control over key pilgrimage routes leading to Mecca and Medina, crucial for both religious and economic power. Next, I'll talk about lessons learned from the conquest. One of the key elements of the Seljuk policy was their focus on securing pilgrimage routes to Mecca and Medina, vital for the Islamic world. They allied with the Abbasid Caliphate, strengthening their credibility as defenders of Islam. Key figures such as Tughril Beg, Alp Arslan, and Nizam al-Mulk played crucial roles in consolidating Seljuk power. However, unlike earlier caliphates, the Seljuks did not conquer the Arabian Peninsula outright. Instead, they relied on political and religious influence, ensuring the safety and security of pilgrims and reinforcing their control over these crucial routes. Finally, I'll compare and contrast Umayyad and Seljuks. The Umayyad Caliphate provides a critical lesson in the dangers of solidifying power without accountability and justice. While they were the first major dynasty in the Muslim world, their rule was marked by severe injustices, such as the loss of shura in leadership selection and even the massacres like those at Karbala and siege of Mecca. Despite these issues, they made contributions to the spread of Islam and the Arabic cultures, such as formalizing grammar and fostering early academic activity. When comparing the Umayyads to the Seljuks, we see a significant difference in their method of control. The Umayyads ruled with centralized power and often through force, while the Seljuks leveraged political alliances, particularly with the Abbasid Caliphate, to validate the authority. Both the Umayyad and the Seljuk focused on controlling Mecca and Medina, but the Umayyads used direct military interventions, whereas the Seljuks used diplomacy and strategic partnerships. This contrast highlights the evolving approaches to governance, where the Umayyads' authoritarian rule stands in in clear contrast to the Seljuks' more diplomatic approach, which maintained religious authenticity without relying on direct force. Thank you guys so much for listening to our presentation.